Hello, Dave Hurwitz at ClassicsToday.com here. Let's talk about Goldmark's Rustic Wedding Symphony. Do you remember that? I'm a sucker for it. I just love the work. It seems to have fallen completely out of favor. And it's such a shame. I can't, nowadays everybody wants to do big, heavy duty, blockbuster, profound pieces. So it's all like Beethoven, Brahms, Bruckner, Mahler, Shostakovich. I don't know. There's got to be room for a full length piece of light, colorful, tuneful, joyous music like Goldmark's Rustic Wedding Symphony. Now, in case you don't know what it is, it's basically a suite. He called it a symphony, but it doesn't have a movement officially in sonata form. So, whether or not it's an actual theoretical, classical, traditional symphony is up for debate. But it has 5 movements, and I'm going to just tell you what they are here. I have them. There's a wedding march, a bridal song, a serenade, in the garden, and the finale, which is a dance. Now, the wedding march is actually a theme in variations, and it begins with a tune that sounds an awful lot like the third subject from the first movement of Bruckner's Second Symphony. That's da 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 da. Doesn't that sound great? The reason I'm singing it instead of playing it is because I tried playing a few things and I got copyright notices on my YouTube channel. So you're going to have to put up with some of my vocalism. Sometimes I'll still play stuff anyway, but it's something I need to pay attention to. Anyway, the bottom line is Bruckner's symphony was earlier, and there's probably virtually no chance that Goldmark ever heard it. And what I think is going on there is they're drawing from the same pool of Central European folk-like melodies, and it's a beautiful melody. It is, but the most wonderful thing about this piece is the fourth movement, In the Garden, which is just one of the most wonderful romantic slow movements in the entire latter half of the 19th century. You just have to hear it. It's absolutely exquisite. And the scoring of this piece is so lovely and colorful. It's similar, I guess, in some respects to Dvorak, but it tells us once again just sort of how moribund the German symphonic tradition was in the second half of the 19th century, how it exercised this stifling influence on composers who had a real penchant for orchestral color. They never had a chance to do it unless they did something that was programmatic rather than symphonic. Anyway, the work was wildly popular in its day. It was wildly popular for much of the 20th century, and it deserves to be so again. It's been recorded a surprising number of times. Most of your major conductors through the 50s and 60s did it. Maurice Abravanel did it with the Utah Symphony. Andre Previn did it with the Pittsburgh Symphony. More recently, Jesus Lopez Cobos did it for Decca. Stephen Gunzenhauser did it for Naxos. There's no shortage of performances out, but my favorite is probably this one, Leonard Bernstein with the New York Philharmonic, he exercises his inimitable charisma on the piece. And of course, I think this album cover sort of says all you need to know about Goldmark, because originally it was released separately as a Goldmark disc, an LP. But now, of course, you see the CD cover and it says Dvorak in big letters. And all you get by Dvorak on this disc are 2 Slavonic dances. It's the least substantial thing on the disc. Meanwhile, you have a 5-movement extravaganza by Goldmark, and it's here, in smaller type. So, it just goes to show that, unfortunately, these days, Goldmark isn't a big sell. But that doesn't mean you can't hear it. The Bernstein performance is available for download. It's on iTunes. It's coupled by the most appropriate thing you can imagine, Hindemith's Symphony in E-flat major, which, it's a great piece. I love it, and it's a great performance of it. But as a coupling to the Goldmark Rustic Wedding Symphony, you have to be out of your mind. But that, again, it just goes to show you that we're living in days of random discographic chaos. And so in order to bring sense of it, we're going to have to exercise our own sort of editing control and find the gems buried in the heaps of stuff that these labels are just flinging out at us at random. And one of those gems is unquestionably the Goldmark Rustic Wedding Symphony with Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic. If you can get your hands on it, give it a shot. If you haven't heard it in 30 or 40 years, get to know it again. You'd be surprised at just how wonderfully crafted it is. And if you haven't heard it before, here's your opportunity to get to know one of the real gems of 19th century symphonic music. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you very much.